Oh, wow. Hello, friends. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Frank. I am doing something today that is very challenging, but very needed. I feel like I've been called to have this conversation on the internet for quite some time because I know that so many people follow me. Um, but a lot of people don't know the story. So yeah, I am going to be talking today, just about who I am, but really about my grief story. So if you're new here and you like it, subscribe. I'm filming this podcast today in my actual apartment complex. We have a flexible space here, and I will be shooting a lot more content because it feels like not my home and like a mock place where I can come and record. So shout out to Three Collective, a place where I can live, work, and play. Cheers to many more of these. Who knows? This may turn into a podcast, but I'll be calling this the first episode of Get Up Out That Bed. And I want to share with all of you why Get Up Out That Bed is so important to me. And this is probably the hardest conversation I will have on the internet. So let's get into it. So a lot of you do not know me, and that is quite hilarious to me. Because I have been on two television shows. I was season 4 Winner of the Circle on Netflix, and I also appeared on How to Get Rich on Netflix. But I have such a long life of things that have really shaped me to be who I am that happened to me before that. So I have no notes today. I have no bullet points. I'm just gonna talk through how I got here. We may cry, we may laugh. I don't know. I got tissue in case I cry. But I've told this story a lot of times, and I feel like I'm gonna power through it. So yeah, let's get right into it, shall we? So I want to start off by talking about my childhood. I grew up in a small town in Shorterville, Alabama, and I was such a happy kid. I remember loving going to church. I would love to sit like in the choir stand, and I would stand up on the chairs in choir and sing because I wanted to sing. I loved to sing. I had an amazing relationship with both of my parents. My mom was a spunky. If you like me, you would have loved my mom. Her name was Elaine. Oh God. Oh, I'm not already getting emotional. Okay, you can do this. You can do this. Yeah. She was a spunky something, and she gave, if you all loved me, you would have loved her. She was me. I tell people all the time, like, if you ever want to know what my mom was like, she was me times 10. And I'm not being dramatic when I say that. But yeah, I had an amazing childhood. My mom was a great mom. My dad was an amazing dad. He was that dad. His name was Frank. Which is where I get Frank in the City from. He was the dad that she would tell him to whoop me, and he would like take me into the room and make me like fake cry so that she would think that I actually got a whooping, but he would just be like, do better. And I remember those days where he would kind of like save me, right? So growing up, amazing childhood. I have not one complaint. I remember sitting in front of like our floor model TV, and I would like be young, like 4 or 5, and I remember wanting to be on TV, and I remember like telling my mom and my dad, I was like, I want to be on TV. Like, I love that we're all sitting here and somebody's entertaining us. I want to entertain people. So yeah, I will get into my first experience with grief. And I feel like it's ever so important for me to talk about this because I feel like a lot of my peers are experiencing grief for the first time. And I've experienced it at almost every turn of my life. And I think the first one was the hardest because at the tender age of 5 years old, I remember waking up, going to school, and my dad had to go to the hospital. I sobbed. I did not want my daddy to go to the hospital. I was like, no, 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 don't go, don't go. You don't need to go. Like, I was very against it. And I remember it. And my mom was like, he's going to be okay. He's just going for a checkup. Like, everything is fine. And I went to school that day and I came home and my mom was home, but my dad was not. My dad had a heart attack at the hospital. And it was in that moment where my life really changed forever because I had to understand at the age of 5 the concept of someone dying and they're not coming back. But I remember feeling a bit of. I was young, so I didn't really understand it, but I remember feeling so glad that I had my mom still around. And yeah, I mean, we made the most of it. She would have sad times, I would have sad times, but I feel like we got through that together. Um and so we went on to live an amazing life. My mom was amazing. I was in band. She was band booster. She loved me. That's my baby. Like anything I needed. Like she was that mom that was always at the meetings at school, trying to make sure I was getting the best education possible, showing up for me. My mom always instilled in me that I could do anything that I wanted to do if I just tried. And she would always be like, but did you try? How hard did you try? Because there's a difference in trying and succeeding and not trying at all and still thinking that you're going to succeed. So there was nothing that I did not think that I could do. And I feel like that is why I show up in the world the way that I show up, because my mom was plus size, but she was the baddest thing walking. Like she would light up any room she walked into every single time. The spotlight was on her. She was that girl, and she was also so loved in her community. The outpouring of love that she would receive just in the grocery store. She worked at the health department. She became a manager of the health department. She was that girl. And I wanted to grow. When I grew up, I said I want to be like her. I want to be a badass like her. I want to command the room like her. I want to dress like her. I want to be confident like her. I don't want to take. She was known as a person like she not taking no shit, and I wanted to be just like her. Um, and we got through that thing, and I will never forget. It was one night I had went to bed and I did not wash the dishes. And she had got me up out of bed. She was like, you're supposed to wash the dishes. You got to do what you say you're going to do. And I was so mad at her. I remember being so mad at her. Like, I didn't say good night to her. And I remember being at the dishes furious. And I woke up the next morning and we had a ritual. When we would argue the night before, my room was on one side. We stayed in a double wide trailer. My room was on one end. Her room was on the other end. In the middle was like our kitchen. So I would come from this way and yell to her, all right, I'm going to school, because I had a long driveway to walk down. So I would have to leave my house early to walk to the end of the driveway. Or some days I would walk down to my grandmother's house and catch the bus down there, because my best friend Joshua stayed down the street. And sometimes I would catch the bus with him. And on the nights that we would argue or, get into a little spat, she would make me come to her room and like tell her to her face that I'm leaving and give her a kiss on the cheek. To kind of like break up the spat we had, because I'm 14 at this point. I have an attitude. I'm older. I'm growing up and I'm like her. And so this particular morning, the next morning, I went to the midway point and I was like running late. Of course, I think lateness is in me at this point. But I got to the middle and I told her, I was like, girl, I'm leaving. And she did not respond to me. And I was like, girl, I'm leaving. Like, I can't even play with you this morning. Like, I can't even come up there and like fake play with you, because I done heard the bus go down the street and it's coming back up. And my friends knew that if I didn't catch the bus when it was coming down the street, like I wasn't on the bus when it picked them up, I would be on it when the bus did a loop and came back up the street. So I had already heard the bus go down the street. And I was like, girl, I cannot play with you. And ended up going up to her room and I was like, mama, like I'm going to be late. Like I'm going to school. I'll see you when I get back home. and she didn't say nothing. And I thought she was playing a joke. Like I thought it was such a joke. And I woke up. And not I woke up. I tried to wake her up, like I'm shaking her. No response. And it was such a it was such a out of body experience because as a 14-year-old that has experienced this, I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that something was not right. So I called my grandmother and I told her what was happening. And she told me to call 911. Ambulance came. My uncles and all those things came up, and we stayed in a small town, so I had to go to the end of the like they would easily pass the road because our house was like down a dirt road. So I had to go to the end of the road, sit in the car, and basically like be the signal to the ambulance that this is the house that just called for you. And I remember sitting in the car, and that song by Shekinah Glory came on, and it was like, yes, yes, and it was the first. I think that was like the first moment I had an experience with like spirit, and like I feel like God was like kind of talking to me, and in that moment, I was like, before the ambulance even got there. I was like, your mom. I remember thinking in my head, your mom, she's not coming back. Like that's it. Um, and my uncle them told me when the ambulance got there that she was already gone. My mom went into a diabetic coma. She had went to the doctor. Very similar stories. She went to the doctor the day before. Um, she told me everything was fine. Um, and yeah, I went to school that very same day. I remember walking. I remember like people were calling. It was a thing. It was a big. It was a big thing. Because my mom was loved. Everybody knew her. We lived in a small town, so it was like that one stung everybody. But people kept calling. I was down at my grandmother's house. My best friend came over, came from school, and I was like, y'all, I cannot sit around this. I have to go to school, and I went to school that very same day. And I remember walking through the hallways, and everybody looking at me like with confusion. And I just think back to that and I'm just like, wow. Like you were so fucking strong. You were so strong to go back to school and we can be tearing this toilet tissue off. Oh God. And I do not cry on the internet. I do not believe in that girl. But I cannot hoard my story, because I have to show people what happens when you get to the other side of all the things I'm about to tell you guys about. And yeah, I went to school. I remember going to band practice. I played at the football game that Friday night. And it was such a my mama when we would perform in that band, she would have posters. That's my baby. That's my baby. Go baby. Like she didn't care. We would go out there and perform the same things, and she would be our biggest cheerleader. And it was in that moment where I walked out to that band field. I did a pivot and turned around, and I realized that my mom was not here anymore. And I cried the entire performance on that field. I don't think I played one note. I feel like I was just there. And my life really changed forever. My uncle moved in with me so that I could um remain in the home that I lived in, but I had to grow up at 14. I had to I had to really understand, like, okay, your life is different. Yeah, you have family, you have friends, you have people stepping in, but you don't have either one of your parents, baby. You have to figure it out. And that became a quick reality for me, but for a long time, I struggled with the idea of letting her go. Like in my head, I was like, oh, I must have been bad. Like, she's gonna come back, like, she's playing a prank on me. And it took so long for me to realize, like, no, baby, she's really gone. And I remember being at my friend's church, and I feel like my mom like came to like visit me, and she was like, "You have to let me go so that you can fly." Um, and at that moment, I was like, "Wow, she's really gone." And those were those were my experiences with grief in my childhood. And I told God, I was like, God, please don't let me be in a situation where I'm not able to fully be the best version of myself when my grandparents passed away. I lost my nephew when I was in a senior in high school. He was a junior. Lost him. That was hard. That was really, really hard. Then in college, I had my first experience, like, being away. Um, I remember I was kind of skeptical about telling my grandmother that I was coming to Howard because it was so far away. And she was like, baby, we have lived our lives. We will be here. You go live yours. And she always like pushed me to not let my circumstances define me in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And she got sick. She was doing fine. She randomly got sick. My grandmother was a warrior. She had beat breast cancer twice. She had survived 2 heart attacks that she didn't even know she had had. She was the matriarch. She was the praying. When I say I'm covered today because my grandmother would pray and cover me, and I was her favorite grandchild. Um, and I remember like I would call my girl. I still have like voicemails from her because I learned like those are the things that you should keep. And that was my girl. We used to call, she used to call me, we would gossip. Never saw her cry about my mom ever. Even at the funeral, she held it together, and that was her youngest child. And she got sick on me when I was in grad school, and I finally had I didn't even have enough money to fly home to like be back and forth to check on her. Because I'm up here dealing with my shit. You know what I'm saying? So I went home and I got home and my grandmother was my girl. Like that was my girl. And I walked in the door and she didn't even know who I was. And it was at that moment where I was like, whoa, whoa, Holiday, that's my girl. How do you not know me? Got back home and she passed away a few days later. It was like she waited on me to like come home so that she could like see that I was like good. And yeah, that was another experience of grief. And I'm talking you guys through all of this because there is something on the other side of grief, like I've said. And I feel like there are people that are experiencing grief for the first time, and I think they're gonna think that, oh, my life doesn't get better, it kind of stops. And I'm like, it changes, it gets better, you get better. You have to keep going though. So I did all I needed to do, and I graduated from Howard. I was a school social worker, and this show called The Circle came out, and I was like, you know what? I would be really good on that show. Like, who is the people that are responsible for this? Season 1 came out, didn't know anything about it, a mega hit. Season 2 came out, and I'm like, okay, like I need to like figure out how I can get on this show. I even tweeted about getting on the show. Uh, Ended up seeing an application. Started an application, and I was like, it's so long, I'm gonna do it. 2 weeks went by, didn't even complete it. And I was like, baby, I need to finish the application. My best friend Nakaya, she had called me on the phone. She was like, Did you finish that circle application? And I was like, girl, no. I'm gonna do it today at work though. Did it one day at work because I was like not focused on work at all. And I was like, girl, let me finish this application. Set the camera up, did my whatever it's called where people You know, your interview. That's what it's called. Did that. And I'm like, okay, that was cool. I left work, went to TJ Maxx because I wanted a candle. And I got a text from Meg Maley. I will never forget it. She was like, hey, Frank, my name is Meg Maley, and I just saw your circle tape. I would love to chat with you. And I was like, oh, that was fast. Like, I just did that, like, not even 3 hours ago. And it was at that moment I said, ooh, I've done it. I already knew I was going to take it. I felt like it was when opportunity met chance. It wasn't good luck. It was God's perfect timing and alignment. And little did I know that he had one more step for me to take. My grandfather ended up passing away in the midst of me preparing to go to the circle. I had to make a choice between going to the circle or going home to his funeral. And I literally remember being in my friend's living room. My job had told me that I had to quit. I couldn't even take a leave of absence to go to the show. Mind you, this is my dream job. Like, I stood up at Howard Grad School and everybody was like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I was like, I want to be a school social worker. And I just knew I was going to be this social worker that was like changing the game. And I really wanted that job. And I was so happy when I got it. And I had to quit my job, and then I was like, my granddaddy just died. Like, you just died, and your funeral is the weekend that I'm supposed to be flying out for the circle. But the circle people were so kind. They even said like, hey, we will fly you to Alabama and then fly you from Alabama to the UK. Because that's a lot. And I had to make a rough decision. I was like, I can't go home in that and immediately flip my head to go over here and do this thing. And I literally kept replaying in my head things that my grandmother and my grandfather would tell me. And they would be like, we've lived our lives. We've lived our lives. Go live yours. Go live yours. And after talking with my family about it, I ultimately made the decision. I was like, I have to go do this thing because I'm being called over here to do it. And so I got to the circle and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna journal every day, and I wrote down every day that I can win this. I can do this. I've already won this. It's mine. I can't remember exactly what I said, but from the moment I stepped on that soil in Manchester, I was like, wrote that down every day. Everybody I came in contact with, I was like, yeah, I'm here to win the circle. I don't know what season I'm on yet, but I'm here to win. The drivers that they would come and pick me up, if we had conversation, I would sit there and tell them, I was like, yeah, I'm here to win the circle. We had to meet with like a psychiatrist or a psychologist, just to like make sure that you have the right mindset going into things. And she was like, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna win. And she was like, well, everybody thinks that. And I said, yeah, I know what everybody thinks, but I'm telling you, I'm gonna win. And she stopped and she looked at me like, And she was like, yeah, just prepare, just in case you don't. And I was like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to be preparing for the win because I'm here to win. I got out the car at the airport and my best friend said, don't come back if you don't win. And I will never forget that because I'm like, he means that. And I have to come back here and win. And I think people thought I wasn't going to win. And I ended up winning. And I remember having a conversation with that very same lady. She said, you know what? It was something about you when you told me that you were going to win. I've heard that so many times. You were the only person that I really believed that because I felt like you believed that. And I told her, I said, I did. I really did. I didn't know how. I didn't know how it was gonna happen, but I felt in my spirit that I was gonna win. And I think that's the real purpose of this video today. It's to really just remind anybody really, is that when you change your mindset, you can change your mind. And you can really do anything you put your mind to. And when I talk about being on the other side of grief, I talk about being able to sit and do what I'm doing right now and encourage people that are experiencing grief for the first time, never have experienced grief. I am truly the walking person that is a reminder to you that you will get through this. I will say it again. You will get through this. Grief is not going to bury you. You still have to live. You have to thrive. You have to work hard. You have to live for the people that you have lost along the way because their life has unfortunately ended. But your life, in a sense, is just now beginning. We have to understand that we are doing things in our loved ones' absence. When I get up every day and I think about get up out that bed, I'm thinking about that day that my mom did not get up out that bed. I think about the day that my dad did not get up off that hospital bed. I think about the day that my grandmother did not get up off that bed that night. I think about the time where my grandmother and my grandfather had to get in two separate rooms because they both had hospital beds. And I think about how they did not get up out that bed. And do you know that's what I mean when I say get up out that bed and do what the hell you have to do because nobody's going to do it for you. And there may come a day where you may not get out of bed. There may come a day where you cannot get up out the bed. And that's why I try to command my days and make my days mine. Is every day going to be great? No. Am I going to get up every day and try? Yes. And that's why you all get to see the Frank in the City that you see. Loud, in color, loving myself, doing what I got to do to make other people feel good because I want to feel good. I'm grateful that I get one more day to get up out that bed. And I went on to do amazing things despite everything I've lost, despite all the people I've lost. You all don't know half the stories of why I have reasons that I would not want to get out of bed. But I think, in all honesty, I have to tell my story. I have to share how I got through grief. And so, yeah, that's my story. Oh, I made it through and I didn't cry that much. Oh, I love that. I'm so proud of me. Y'all, I really have been thinking about sharing this for quite some time. It has been on my spirit. I kind of have been feeling called to like just share who I am and where I am now because I tell people all the time, I'm still just getting started. Even I've done some amazing things. I'm doing amazing things. And every day I'm just like my mom would be so proud of me. My dad would be proud of me. My nephew would be proud of me. My grandparents would be so proud of me. My uncles that I have lost. I lost two uncles in the last few years, and I'm just like everyone. I have so many angels. Like I don't know. It's just like even like right now, I kind of feel like they're watching me. Like they're watching me like talk about this and saying to themselves like, okay, I had to leave you for this. I don't know who I'm gonna save, who I'm gonna help get through grief. I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm committed to showing up in the space and doing what I have to do, and help lead a lot of people through the grieving process and understanding that when it comes to grief, honey, I'm not only a licensed therapist, but I also am the expert in the grief thing, okay? And I want to encourage people that there is so much on the other side of grief when you push through and continue to fight for the life that you still have. And when you get up out that bed, girl or boy, you have a mission, you have a purpose. You have to turn that passion into power and use it to propel you forward. And yeah, welcome to what may turn into a podcast. I don't know. It depends on if you guys like this. If you want to hear more about this. And yeah, welcome to Get Up Out That Bed with Frank Grimsley. So we will see where this goes. I don't know, but I know I made it through. I made it. I made it, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with a friend. I'm thinking about doing some type of. I would love to like build some type of community around people that are grieving. So we can have more in-depth conversations, weekly check-ins and things like that. Trying to figure out what that looks like. I don't want to do that so publicly, because I want other people to be able to like share their experiences. So that will probably be coming to you in the form of like YouTube, a channel subscription, or like some type of Patreon. I'm not sure what that looks like. Let me know you guys' thoughts on that. And yeah, I feel so good to be doing the things that have kept me up at night. Shout out to my mama, my dad, and my granddad, and my grandpa, my uncles, my nephew, all the ones that I have lost along the way. I am pushing forward to do what it is that you all expected me to do, and that's show people how to win. So let's get up out that bed and let's get to it, friends. You only get one life. You got to make the best of it. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.